Hi, friends, and welcome back to Fill Your Cup with Wild Geese Bookshop. I'm Kara,
And I'm Emily.
and today we are talking all things book to movie adaptations, just books and film. That's the topic today. I feel like often you hear, "Oh, the book was better," and things like that, and I think that's a hot topic right now, especially as book to movie adaptations are kind of on the rise. I feel like they just like kind of keep popping up, and they often show up on favorite book lists, and then they'll also end up on like favorite TV show or movie lists, and I feel like there's a lot of crossover right now.
Yeah, so I feel like when you hear about a book being made into film of any kind, whether that's a TV show, whether it's a movie or a miniseries, a lot of people will just say point blank period the book's going to be better, and sometimes that's not true. Sometimes the film material is just as good. Sometimes the film material can be better. And I think it's really hard when you talk about adaptations because you're talking about a piece of work that is someone's heart and soul that they have put out into the world in the format of words on paper. But then you also have to think of the film aspect of things as someone's heart and soul in a different format.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it can get kind of tricky when you're talking about adaptations. I think I look at it more as it's just a different art form. It's a different way to think of things. It's a different way to look at things. There's different capabilities that an author has when they put pen to a paper than a producer or a director has when they put the words on that paper into visual representation like film or TV. It is interesting. I think it's always been a hot topic in the book community. I think social media has made it even more so a hot topic because the comparisons out there are more frequent and they're faster and they come out almost immediately. But I do want to make it like a general statement that, and I don't want to talk for you, Kara, but I feel like we kind of think the same way on this, that it is two different art forms.
Yeah.
They can be reviewed together, but I think there's a place to say that they could be reviewed and looked at as separate entities almost.
Right. I feel like it's definitely that conversation of them being like separate entities, but also being like complementary to one another. It's not going to be a direct visual representation of everything that goes on in a book. Like that just can't happen. And I feel like that's often the expectation with readers is that the movie adaptation needs to be word for word everything that the author put into a book. And I think that being able to separate that in your brain is something that, especially I feel like more and more books are getting optioned or getting like they're actively in production to be a movie or a show. I feel like people can make creative choices that are different than the book in the movie and it's still going to be good. I don't think the closeness to the book means an adaptation is good or bad because it's a different work at the end of the day. It's a different form, it's a different medium. It's just different, but it has the same title and the same like storyline. And I think that's okay. Like, I don't think that means it's a bad adaptation. For example, People We Meet on Vacation also just came out this year, and there were a lot, in my opinion, of changes that were made to the movie that were different than the book, but I don't think it made that a bad adaptation at all. I thought that movie was fantastic and super fun, and I think it did the book justice, if you could say that. I think they complemented each other really well, and like you could still see the source material in it, but it was still able to hold its own as a separate piece of work.
I think people get really caught up in the like minute details of adaptations. The one I always think of is when The Hunger Games was being made into a movie and they cast Josh Hutcherson as PETA. People were up in arms because this man has brown hair and PETA is blonde. And these people were acting as if like bleach did not exist or wigs did not exist. And another thing that really bothered people that they didn't change for the movie is that Josh Hutcherson has brown eyes and PETA has blue eyes. And people were so devastated and thought like it thought it genuinely impacted the movie. I don't think I was a huge Hunger Games fan, still am. Still very, very into that universe, reading all of the new things that Suzanne Collins puts out and watching the movies, keeping up. I just could not imagine looking at a movie and saying like, this movie's terrible because this character is supposed to have something as small as like blue eyes and they have brown eyes instead.
Right.
When it has nothing to do with the plot. I think that's where people lose a lot of enjoyment in movie adaptations, that I think they're stealing their own joy.
Right.
When they get caught up in like little things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, and we'll talk about this when we get to our like least favorite adaptations. There are some adaptations that go so far off script.
Yeah.
And I've noticed it typically happens with fantasy adaptations And it's kind of like what you said, you cannot put every single thing from a book into a movie, or these movies would be 24 hours long.
Yeah.
It's like some of these books are 5, 6, 7, 800 pages. They can't, they're an hour and 20 minutes, 2 hours is not enough time. And so sometimes I think it is harder with the fantasy novel to adapt it in a way that is more comparable to the book.
And I think that's something that people don't necessarily take into consideration as more and more of these adaptations are coming out, is that when you are making a book into a movie, you're tapping into a fan base that already exists, and they already feel so passionately about the characters. They have opinions, they have theories, they have thoughts, and it all builds up upon one another. When you read a book, of course, things are going to be more in depth. Some things are going to be more explained, and some things are going to have to be like removed, because not everybody that's watching the movie is going to have read the book. And so sometimes like that tiny, like minute detail, it just might not make sense to a viewer that is not in it. And I think that's just something totally different that is just a whole new ball game when it comes to these like book to movie adaptations, which is not a new thing by any means. It's been happening for years and years and years. But I think right now we're in a big like resurgence of the book to movie adaptations. And I think a lot of it has to do with like social media and how rampant the book community is right now. Everyone's reading. Reading's the cool thing to do. So many people, if you ask like what their hobbies are, they're like, oh, I love to read. And then also film is like a huge thing right now. Always has been, but there's more community spaces for it online with like online forums, and then there's like Letterboxd where you can like review movies and things like that. There's just more of a community for both sides. So it's really good market to get into as like a filmmaker. And I think as viewers, people are really yearning for like that original content, and book to movie adaptations let you have that original movie while still tapping into something that's familiar without being like another Scream movie or something like that, where like they're just making and like pumping out these movies in like familiar franchises or remaking things that have been done before. And so I think it's a really cool thing that's going on right now, and I'm into it. I'm into it.
I think it's really nice for people to be able to adapt books into some type of film, because it is original in its own way, because it's an original to that format, but then you already have that fan base like you said. And it's a great opportunity for that fan base to also get something that they've always dreamed of, which is the visual representation of these characters that they've loved for so long. And for some of these adaptations, they're series and they are older. So some of these fan bases have been going on for years. So with that in mind, do you want to start with what are your favorite movie adaptations?
It's so hard to pick. You kind of touched on it, but the Hunger Games franchise, every single movie that has come out, even like the gap between Mockingjay Part 2 and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I was a little bit nervous, I will admit, when I heard about the production for The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because it was such a big gap. I was just a little bit nervous, because it is a series that I hold very near and dear to my heart. I thought all of the movies were fantastic. All of the books are fantastic as well. I was just a little bit nervous, but it was so good. And then Sunrise on the Reaping is coming out this fall. I am very excited for that one as well, just because I've never been let down by anything affiliated with the Hunger Games. It's all been so good. I just always go back to that one because I grew up with it. Even as an adult, like I will go back and I'll rewatch the Hunger Games movies and I'm like, yeah, these are still fantastic movies. And like a year ago, I reread all the books as well. Fantastic books as well. They're just all so well done on both sides.
Yeah, one thing the Hunger Games franchise also does really well is the costume design.
Yes.
And I don't think that's going to stop with Sunrise and the Reaping. I think it looks incredible, and it looks very well done in the way that it is still Capitol when you see all of the people from the Capitol, but it's Capitol vintage.
Yeah.
And they did a good job for like making that timeline, because obviously that timeline doesn't really exist. Like what's vintage to us isn't obviously vintage in that world. But I get it. Like I saw the uniforms they were wearing into the arena. I saw what they were wearing like during their little interviews just briefly. And it makes sense for the timeline that Suzanne Collins has made for these books.
Right. And the way the entire franchise is filmed is so consistent, which I think is so amazing, because the Hunger Games movies, like the original like 4 movies, they're all filmed very like beautifully in my opinion. And the way that there was such a big gap between the original 4 and then the first prequel, and they look like they're filmed exactly the same, consistency is still there. Like I feel like there would have been an opportunity for them to look a little bit disjointed just because of the gap in time, and I think they just they just do such a good job. They are just beautiful movies, and I just love them. I just love those movies so much. Another one of my favorite adaptations is a new one, and I'm sure everyone's heard of it, but Project Hail Mary just came out about a week ago, and I went and saw it opening weekend, and I can say that the hype is definitely real on this one. I think it is one of the most well done adaptations I've ever seen. I think that Project Hail Mary did a great job at enhancing the source material, like the book that Andy Weir had originally come out with. I thought Project Hail Mary for a science fiction was very accessible as a novel, but there were also aspects where the science was kind of heavy, and a big portion of especially the beginning kind of goes into a little bit of the nitty gritty. And when I was reading it personally, I just like, they lost me a little bit during those points. So I think having like the visual representation and those conversations actually depicted on the screen really helped me to clock in for those moments and actually process what was happening. And I just think Ryan Gosling did such a good job. In Project Hail Mary, he is like in this spaceship, like light years away from home, and he's like the pretty much the only person on the spaceship that is living. That is not a spoiler. That is back flap of the book material, but he is like alone on this ship, and I think that is a really hard role to play. And I think that with the way that the movie is filmed and the script, it didn't feel weird that it was like just like one guy in like basically a room in space. And I think they did a great job at balancing the humor, the science, and then the action of being in space with aliens and like trying to save the planet. And it was phenomenal, and I definitely would recommend going to see it if you have any interest at all, whether you read the book or not. I think anybody could take something from it just with the story and the way that it is filmed. I think film buffs are going to also really enjoy this one, and it did the book justice, but it was also just a great movie.
I do think that's something really great about film in general when it comes to adapting from pen to paper. And for people like me, fun fact about me is I can't visualize things in my mind's eye. When people say, oh, visualize an apple, I can tell you what an apple looks like, but that's only because I've seen an apple in real life. So when it comes to like more of these like grand adventure type books, or books that take place in space and take place in worlds that don't exist, and it can be kind of hard for me to visualize those things. And then when it becomes into like film or TV, what have you, it's nice because I'm like, oh, that's what all that stuff looks like. I just have to go through reading. I'm a big fantasy reader, and I just have to go through reading, knowing that I don't know what these things look like, and that's okay, and like accepting that. So I love how you said that Project Hail Mary kind of like brought some of those science aspects to life. I feel like that's really helpful for readers like me who might have a harder time visualizing things that they don't fully comprehend or understand. And it makes that book more accessible to other people. And I'm sure it's probably like encouraged people to pick up the book, and reading that book will be more accessible to them because they have something to visualize as they read now.
Absolutely. And for me, like I really struggled. I don't typically have an issue with like visualizing what I'm reading, but I was really struggling with this one just because I'm not a big science fiction reader. I love fantasy, but science fiction feels a little bit more intimidating to me. And I was really struggling with like visualizing like the spaceship, and Rocky is like this like alien form that he like befriends in space. And like the entire time I was just picturing him like looking like Wall-E, like the Disney movie. And so being able to see that representation, like being like, oh, duh, his name is Rocky because he's a rock, like that kind of thing. It just really brought that all to light for me, and just like being able to see like how they were able to enter each other's spaces. Like in my head I was like, well, he said they can do it, so they're doing it. So being able to actually see how they made that work was great, and it was really helpful for me to appreciate the book more, honestly. So for you, what are some of your favorite adaptations?
I can go ahead and tell you one of my favorite movie adaptations of all time, which is also one of my favorite books of all time, which is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. That book was very special to me in high school. I've read it multiple times. I have multiple editions of it, and I'm not that type of person. Usually like one edition's enough for me. And when the movie was coming out, I was really excited. It came out in 2012, so I was still in high school, like early high school. And it is a more mature movie. The movie did the book justice in a way that it really was a character analysis of all these different characters that existed in this like small town, in this high school. It was in letter format still, which was a homage to like the original text, to the original book. But they did it in a way that wasn't kind of like flat, because that can kind of funky. The cinematography was beautiful. And the feeling that the movie gave me was the same feeling that the book gave me, which I feel like is hard to do sometimes.
And I think that's one of those instances where I did not read the book, but I watched the movie and it still felt like a separate thing. Like I didn't feel like I was disjointed or like I wasn't in on something, which I think is huge and very important to achieve with a movie adaptation of a book, is that it also can be something that stands on its own. Like one can exist without the other, and it still feels like a fully formed idea, like a fully formed piece of art. And I think The Perks of Being a Wallflower, it's such a good movie. Right around that 2012 era, there was like a big push of these like young adult movies being made. Right around the same era as like The Fault in Our Stars and Paper Towns came out around that time. We're kind of seeing that same thing now in the early like 2012 to like 2015. I think reading was also kind of having a resurgence with the Tumblr era and like Pinterest being like big with like the artsy crowd. And I think all of those books, the ones I had mentioned, were all getting like adapted, and then like Divergent and just like that era of young adult was very, very big in the movie space. I think we're seeing that now, but just kind of with popular books like the Book Talk books.
I know a lot of people really like Bridgerton. I haven't personally read the books by Julia Quinn, but my mother has, and she talks to me about all the differences all the time. And I think it's a great example of what Kara was saying earlier of like, I have not read the books. My mom has. I can enjoy them in a very similar way that she enjoys them. And she has like little nods from the book that she tells me about that I don't understand until she tells me. So I think they are doing a great job with that adaptation as well. Obviously, Julia Quinn was writing Regency era romance, and Bridgerton is based off of a Regency era romance. Something that Shonda Rhimes has done with Bridgerton is bring a lot of like diversity to casting, and more recently has started changing some of the plot lines in Bridgerton to make it appeal to a more modern audience. That's been a very big debate online, specifically with this new season, because she's changed one of the characters' genders to be female rather than male. So lots of people are talking about that. But I think it's one of those things that it goes to show that like the adaptation doesn't have to be a carbon copy of the book, because that would be boring. You've already read them. You know what happens. And I know you want to see that play out on screen, but if it plays out on screen the exact same way that you have seen it, it can be tiresome. It can be boring. And maybe that plot isn't going to work for the more modern audience of like the television show. So it's a lot of discussion, I'm sure, with the producers, with the writers, of like what works and what doesn't.
Part of it is that when you're making a movie or a show, I feel like often movies are more widely consumed than books, and it can call for a different audience than like someone who had read the books. Like you said, like you've watched all of the Bridgerton seasons, but you have not read any of the books. And I think people that are making the shows, they recognize that. And so they're like, okay, how can we appeal to a wider audience so that they can get more people like you who are still interested in the show, which is what, at the end of the day, that's what they're worried about. That's what they're creating, and getting people to engage in it in that way. And that might be modernizing the story in one way or another, or making a small like detail like change to appeal to more audiences.
The movies and the TV shows tend to be for a larger audience. The books are for the readers. You want to pay attention to what the readers want, but you also want to gain more popularity and reach that wider audience. And sometimes in that case, like there are people who have watched Bridgerton and gone back and read the books, and it has brought the author, it's brought Julia more readerships and more fans, and I think it can be a really great thing. It's hard because I'm a reader and I want things to be exactly the same. I can talk a big game, but I want things to be exactly the same because I like the book the way it is. However, when you're talking about adaptation and all the changes that they make, you need to take a step back as a reader and realize like what might be best for that piece of art and for that franchise, and kind of find the joy in where in like that you're seeing one of your favorite books be put out there, and for more audience members too.
I think you raise a really good point with that. The shows and the movies can bring a whole new readership to a series that's been out for a while. And I feel like a huge, like, great example of that is Heated Rivalry, because that show was and is massive. Like, everyone is talking about it. Everybody is watching it. Everyone is enjoying it. And then in turn, these books that have been out for years, like years and years and years, are now, every single book in the series is now, for a while there, like right at the start of the year, they were impossible to get your hands on. Like, everybody was wanting to read the Game Changer series, like not even just like Heated Rivalry. Like, everybody was wanting to go back and get all of the details from all of the books and all of the different characters. And it brought a whole new readership to the Game Changer series and to Rachel Reed's. I know she has another standalone hockey book as well. Like, it's brought a whole new audience and just like quantity of readers to her entire back catalog of books.
I watched Heated Rivalry first, and then I read them because the TV show sparked my interest so much. I just think people just need to be more open-minded. They just need to be more open-minded when it comes to adaptations.
Right. And I feel like we often as readers can get into the mindset that like, I am not going to watch XYZ until I read the book. And I am guilty of that. I am the annoying friend that will do that, and I will put it off and I will put it off. But like you said, like, you watched Heated Rivalry first, and then you went back and read the books, and you still had a great time with both. And I think that can exist, and I think it's just taking the pressure off of ourselves that it has to be a comparison between the film format of a piece and then the written format of a piece, that they can coexist and still be counted as separate things, and there's not one correct way to do it. Because I have always said that I want to read the book first because I want to make the comparisons. Like, that's the only reason why I'm like, I want to be able to like know what's going on before I go into something. And I think I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that.
I agree. I think that's something new for me, is that I've kind of given up on the reading the book first, just because of my experience with Heated Rivalry. And like, I didn't even read those books in order either. Hot take, I know. Yeah. I didn't read the books in order because they were impossible to find. So I read them.
You read them as you could find them
in the order that I found them. I tried my best. But I think they can be two separate experiences. I enjoyed that experience of watching the show, and I enjoyed the experience of reading the books, and I enjoyed them for different reasons, and I liked different things about them. And I think that can be true for any adaptation, or most adaptations.
Which leads me to my next question. What are some upcoming adaptations or rumors or things you would like to see on the big screen or on the TV or just anything like that?
So I'm excited for the Rebel Blue Ranch by Lila Sage.
Huge.
That series has been optioned and picked up by Universal Television for a TV series. I think that'll make a fantastic television series, where it's going to be one of those things where people who haven't read the books are going to adore all those characters, and they will be tuning in once a week to find out what's going on and what's happening. I am excited to see the mental health rep that Lila's really awesome at putting into her books, and how they choose to translate that to the TV screen. I think that's going to be fantastic.
I am very curious on how they're going to do it with all the different, because each book follows like a different couple. Yeah. I'm very curious on how they're going to handle that. Like, if they're planning to divide it by like seasons, or
they overlap.
Right. Like, or if it's all going to be like kind of happening at once. I don't know if they're going to do it like a la like Heated Rivalry, where like they included Scott and Kip's story in one episode.
How I would like to see it done is I would like to see it all intertwined. And as I feel like Lila's vision as she was writing it was the whole time, because obviously she was focusing on that on the page, but she was thinking about other characters as she was going, because she talks about how she knew who the next book was going to be about. I would love to see it adapted like that, because I feel like that's how she originally wants it to be seen.
Right.
And I feel like that'd be very comparable to like what the author would want, and how kind of like the readers would want to see it, at least for me. Yeah,
I'm very excited for that show. Another kind of like contemporary romance that's coming out but into a movie is The Love Hypothesis. They've been kind of doing more teasers for that online, And I think it's Lily Reinhart, I think, is who is going to be playing Olive. I loved the live hypothesis when I read it, and I think it will be a very cute rom-com, and I'm very excited to see what they do with it. And yeah, I'm very excited for that one.
No, I think that'll be really good. I think Allie Hazelwood writes a great STEM rom-com and was one of the first to do it in the romance genre. Her and Christina Lauren. It's going to make a contemporary rom-com in a different way that we haven't seen it on screen yet.
Right.
We've been reading Allie Hazelwood for years, but people haven't been watching Allie Hazelwood's work for years. And I think that'll be a new element to the contemporary romance scene and film, which will be super fun.
No, I am very excited to see more contemporary romances on the screen because I love rom-coms. And I feel like recently there just haven't been that many like true rom-coms that have come out in like recent years. And I feel like when they do, I feel like they've been kind of underrated. It like, I think it was in 2022 or 2023, the Hating Game, it had a movie adaptation come out and nobody talked about it, but it had like Lucy Hale in it, and it was so good. That movie was so good and nobody talked about it, and I was like, this is the rom-com that I've been like yearning for. This is what I want. And I think The Love Hypothesis has a huge chance to really like spark that up again, and I'm very excited because I'm very excited because I just love a rom-com. Beach Read is working on casting. I know they just announced who January is going to be. I'm waiting not so patiently on the announcement for Gus. I have heard rumors that Logan Lerman is in like talks of being him. That could be totally made up, but I'm really manifesting that it's not, because that would be so huge for me. But I think these big rom-com like contemporary romances getting turned into movies, I think this is what we need, the final push we need for rom-coms to make a resurgence in film and in theaters. I'm manifesting it.
The Bodyguard by Catherine Center too.
Yes.
Correct. It's rom-com. It's going to be made into a movie with Jared Padalecki
on Netflix, and it's going to be called Guarding Stars because of The Bodyguard starring Whitney Houston, not to be confused.
Right.
Guarding Stars is going to really lean into the holiday aspect of The Bodyguard, which I am very excited about. I love like a holiday rom-com, like a Hallmark movie. Give it to me. I want it. I love that kind of movie, and especially around the holidays, like I feel like it's going to be a nice like cozy, just like fun time. I'm very excited for that one to come out, and the casting is peak. It is so good.
Casting's really good for that one, and Catherine is kind of queen of rom-coms in the book community, so I'm very excited. This might be a hot take calling it kind of a rom-com, but like a darker rom-com that's coming out as a TV show that has a lot of people really excited. Lights Out by Nevessa Allen is a dark romance, but has a lot of comedic elements to it. So I would dare to say that it falls into the rom-com area, definitely darker. Yeah. Definitely has like stalker elements and mafia elements to it. So when you do watch this TV show, don't expect it to be like girly pop frilly, but I think people are very excited about that one. Nothing has come out about it that I know about like casting. I just know it's been picked up officially by a TV production company.
Yeah, it's going to be on Netflix. Hannah Schneider is like running the show, and I'm so intrigued. Lights Out is the only dark romance that I have ever read, and I have so many questions about how they're going to do that show. I'm so intrigued. But people that like that book, they love that book,
and they love Nevessa.
Yes, and I thought it was a good book. I have no qualms with it. I will be tuning into the show.
I do think it was funny. It was a funnier book. For dark romances, I do think it's on the lighter side of that spectrum for sure. It is the only dark romance I've read, but I have lots of friends and some family members who read dark romance pretty avidly. And when I talk about Lights Out, they're like, it's not that dark. And I'm like, okay, well, for me it was.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of comedic elements with Josh's character, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they do his character, because we talked earlier about inner monologue. And he had a lot of inner monologue. Yes. And so I feel like it's going to give some like You vibes.
That's what I was just going to say.
And I think it's going to, I think it might be better than You, because it's funnier. And I think that, I really think that's going to pull through. I really hope so. because it was one of my favorite parts of the book.
Yes, I was thinking that as well, like kind of how With You, which was also a book, kind of like how like Penn Badgley's character in that show, how his thoughts will kind of like act as like a narrator. I think they're gonna have to do that with this. At least that's my prediction. Well, come back and tell me if I'm wrong.
I know.
But I'm just very intrigued with how they're going to do it, and I think I'm just excited. I think it's going to be very interesting and just like a new take on like a romance.
Yeah.
In the like film and TV space.
It'll be interesting to see what doors it opens up, because
Yes.
there's a lot of dark romances out there that I don't think are being optioned because of the fear behind adapting a dark romance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Lights Out is a really good one to start with, because like I said, it's on the lighter side of that dark romance. I could see her other books being picked up afterwards, or being like intermingled with the TV series perhaps.
Or like another like season, like being like each book, because it's kind of the Lights Out series kind of does like what a lot of contemporary romances are doing right now, where like each book follows a couple that like exists
In the same
world, which I think is very smart for like a TV show, because it can immediately call for like more seasons. I will be checking in for updates on Miss Nevessa Allen's page.
Yes, I will as well. I think another big one for rom-com romance type vibes is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I think as of today that we're filming, which is the end of March, she just dropped some stills from filming on her Instagram, and they look perfect.
Yeah.
They look amazing. I'm excited for that one. I think her books lend themselves to television or to movies in a way where it's like you just want to watch it because it's lovely and romantic, and it's on a lake. It's summery.
I'm really excited for that one, because I feel like it's going to give me that same feeling and vibe as when I was waiting on like a new episode of The Summer I Turned Pretty to come out.
I was just thinking,
but it's actually like made for people my age.
Yes,
So it will feel less.
It's going to be like The Summer I Turned Pretty for adults.
It will feel less embarrassing to be like, well, I'm waiting to figure out if she chooses Jeremiah or Conrad. And like, I think it will be giving that for me, but it'll feel less embarrassing for me to talk about with my friends.
It's going to feel more grown up. I was thinking The Summer I Turned Pretty, but for grown-ups. And not that a grown-up can't enjoy The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Because I did.
But it'll feel more adult. I think it'll feel more mature. Yeah. I think it'll give the same vibes though. Very summery.
Yes.
And I think the plan is to like kind of release them in spring and summer. And so I think that'll be a really, really great just what to do in the summer evenings when you don't when it's you can't be outside, or you don't have plans. I think it'll be good. I
am very excited for it. I really loved Every Summer After when I read it, and it also, to clarify, it does not have the same plot as The Summer I Turned Pretty, but I think the energy of like the setting is going to be the same, and that's honestly the feeling I'm chasing. I don't need a like love triangle again. Like, I'm not seeking that. No. So
I'm seeking the summery, beachy, romantic vibe.
Yes.
That's what I want in a good summer romance.
Yes.
Film adaptation.
And I'm very excited for that one. I'm really into the rom-coms right now, because also Lynn Painter just announced that Fake Skating is getting turned into a movie as well. And this was huge for me, because I read Fake Skating this past fall and I loved it. And I think a young adult rom-com, I think that is going to be so fun, because again, like, not to bring it up again, but The Summer I Turned Pretty was like geared towards young adults, but like it reached like past that audience. And I think Fake Skating is going to do the same thing. It's just going to be great. And I am excited for the youngins to have the same feeling that we did, like when The Fault in Our Stars came out, and like that feeling again. I'm manifesting that for them, and I think it's going to be great. And the book was phenomenal. It was very cute, very fun. Lynn Painter, her young adult books, I think they would all be great movies, because the way that she develops her characters and her setting, it's very realistic to a high school experience. And I know when I was younger, that's what I was looking for in the media that I was consuming, like whether that be a book or a movie or a TV show. Like, I was looking for that depiction of the high school experience. And I think Lynn Painter hits like the nail on the head every single time. So I'm very excited for that one. On
the other side of what we were talking about earlier, but not quite romance, there are some romantices that are being adapted into television shows. I know one of them is Fourth Wing. Yeah. And it is officially being adapted by Michael B. Jordan. And
huge.
Is it MGM? Productions, or is it just?
It's a great question.
It's being adapted by Michael B. Jordan. I do know that for a fact. Rebecca Yarros has been talking about it on her social media for quite some time. And I know casting rumors are everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's actors out there dropping dragons in their bios on their Instagram and making all the Fourth Wing girls go crazy.
Yeah.
I am feeling nervous about any romantasy that's being adapted. I've been burnt, as we've talked about.
I think that's fair.
Burnt. Another one that's coming out is Raven Kennedy's Plated Prisoners series, which is like a 6-book series. And it is very fantastical. I think something that Fourth Wing has going for it in the terms of adaptations is it is fantastical. There are dragons, of course. That is fantastical. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the root of the plot is very character driven and there's a magic system. There's all that kind of things. But it is what people really, really care about Fourth Wing are the characters and how they interact with each other and their relationships with each other and their relationships with their dragons. So in my brain, as long as they can get the dragons right, then it's going to be great. And then I think Michael B. Jordan will do a great job. I think he has high standards.
I think that was insane. Like when I read that, I was like, that's fake. But like, I think that is huge. And I trust Michael B. Jordan to do a good job.
Yeah. Well, and he just didn't he have a lot to do with The Sinners? I know he played in The Sinners, but I think he had a lot to do with the production. So that made me feel less concerned than I had previously before I knew who was going to adapt it.
Right.
One thing about the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy is it is very fantastical. A lot of the plot does have to do with those fantastical elements. The main character in it is a woman made of gold and she has like ribbons on her back that move and do things for her. It's very scary to like think that someone is going to take such a fantastical world and try to adapt it to screen. I've been burnt before with a lot less fantastical elements happening. And I'm excited because I think that series is great. I've read the first 3. I need to pick up the last 3. I'll be interested to see how it goes. I think Fourth Wing, I feel very confident with it now. I feel very confident that Michael B. Jordan will do good. I feel very confident with some of the casting rumors that are going around. I think it'll be a big to-do online.
Yes.
And I don't think everyone's going to be happy. And I think that'll just do it more justice because more people will watch because people are going to be talking about how unhappy they are with the casting. That's just going to happen. Because I think Rebecca Yarros has done this thing where she has written such complex, detailed characters and you know exactly what they look like because she knows exactly what they look like and she put it on the page. And now there's like no human who's going to look like Violet, who's going to look like these other, like they just don't exist.
Right. And I think that comes with the territory of picking up such a beloved series and turning it into a TV show or a movie or whatever it is that especially right now in this era of like Bookstagram and like all these different bookish communities online, fan casting and like fan art is everywhere. Yeah. And like people in their brains have like crafted this like perfect cast for them and they'll post it online and then people will like see it and they'll agree. And so then in your head, like you already have like this picture of like what Violet looks like or what Xaden looks like. It creates these expectations before like these filmmakers and like the casting like directors and anything before they'd make any moves. Like people already have an idea of like what to expect and whether that's warranted or not, who's to say. I'm very curious and I know that as soon as anything gets confirmed for the Fourth Wing casting that the internet that will be my entire Instagram that day and I've already accepted that.
Yeah, there's been casting rumors for quite some time. There's been, like I said, there's been some actors who I'm very excited to say who are like not these like large movie actors who have like really detailed like backlists and backlogs of all these other, they're kind of like relatively new, right? Which I think we've seen with Heated Rivalry is a good thing. Yeah. And they're putting little dragons and books in their bios. And then there's people just trying to figure out like what character they're going to be. Right. I don't think Xaden and Violet have been officially casted. I think people have said they are.
The suspicions and things.
But that'll be the next thing that will happen is the casting and stuff for Fourth Wing, and it'll blow up on the internet, and then people will get over it, and they're gonna go watch it anyways because they love Fourth Wing.
Well, and it makes me very excited that someone like Michael B. Jordan is running the show there, because that is going to open the door to so many other people that have not read Fourth Wing to come in and watch it. Actually, I feel like romantasy and romance, they get a lot of flack for not being taken seriously. And I think having a big name like Michael B. Jordan, like supporting the work and being like, hey, this is good, is going to be huge, not only for Fourth Wing, but also for romantasy as a genre to be taken a little bit more seriously, which I think is a discussion for another day, but also a very important one. And I think it's going to be the start of something huge for the genre.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we see a lot more fantasy in television specifically. I think it has a really strong placehold in television because you can be more detailed and because you can have more time to build that world and to have those explanations without it feeling rushed and kind of half done. So when I found out that Fourth Wing was going to be a TV series, or The Plated Prisoner was going to be a TV series, I was ecstatic, because I'm like, yes, they'll have the time, they'll have the space, they'll have the room to grow into like these really big, hopefully really big franchises, because the books are fantastic. The authors are talented and their work deserves that type of attention.
And I think that's, again, just something that's so special about the reading community that is currently online, is that everybody rides so hard for the things that they love, and like they will support the authors that they love in any way that they can. So these authors that are getting the movie deals, the TV show deals, their fans are showing up. And I think that is super important. The sustainability of book to movie to TV show to whatever adaptations. And it's I think we've got something really special going, and it's just, as long as the readers keep showing up, like the things that you want to be on the screen, they're gonna get there eventually.
I agree, because one of my movies that I want to exist is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I think that would make a fantastic movie or a TV show, but I think either would work for this one, because it's not quite fantasy. It's Greek mythology. It's Achilles and Patroclus' story. I have seen everyone talk about how they want Connor Story to play Achilles. I agree. I would love for Connor Story to play Achilles.
It would be great.
And then everyone was talking about it, and then all of a sudden, Connor Story is seen with the director who has optioned Song of Achilles for film, and they were talking at like a coffee shop or a restaurant or whatever. And it's one of those things, it's like if people keep saying it and saying it and saying it, some of these producers, directors, screenwriters, they might see it.
Right.
And then they might reach out to those actors. And that's a really big deal, especially for actors who started off working at a restaurant like a year ago and now are getting all these like movie offers and things. Right. So it is important to manifest. Don't be a jerk about it.
Right. And it's just like, it's again kind of like the same with publishing and everything. The more interest that readers and fans have with like a work, the more that will be done for that work. Like the special editions for like books will come out. Like if there's an audience for it, they're paying attention. The people that are doing the movies, that are doing the shows, that are making the special editions of the books that you love, they're paying attention to what people are interacting with online. That's kind of just the era we are in right now. And you just keep showing up for the people you like. Just keep showing up for them, and then things will happen for them, and then in turn things will happen for you.
Yeah. Make sure you're supporting all the authors that you really love, and if you really love their work and it's been optioned, make sure you let people know. And whether that's just like posting about it or talking about it in forums or whatever it might be, let them know that you know it's optioned and that you would love for it to be picked up. Because just because it's optioned, like we said earlier, that does not mean it's going to go places. They need to know that it's going to make money is what it boils down to. And they need to know that there's interest. And so let people know that you want that TV show from your favorite author, and like let them know that you think this casting would be really great. Are they always going to listen to you? No, but like that's a great way to show up for your authors. It's a great way to show up for people who you've spent hours getting to know the insides of their brains and their characters and the people that they've poured days, months, years into. If you that's such a small way to show up for them in a way when like they want to see their work.
Right. Absolutely. And on that note, I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, and we will see you all next time. Bye. Bye.